We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. The May 19th, 2015 Council Committee meeting. Looks like our first item on the agenda is for fire and EMS. Ms. Skidmore, Mr. Meyer.
I think Mr. McQuarrie's going to do our talking for us.
Okay, great.
He knows all about it, and he can explain it really good, so we won't have any questions.
That makes sense.
I have to lower my chair here a little bit.
Thank you. We did get our bids back from our exhaust removal system specs that we had sent out. If you guys will remember, this is the same process we went through in November and had some major issues with one of the companies. We did just get two bids back. We got one from Hastings, which sells the Plymavent system. I believe that was for, get you the exact number, $70,150. And the other bid came back from the MagnaGrip from Clean Air Concepts. And that is the system that we have at Station 3 currently that we do not want to go with. And the bid came back at $54,119. That bid coincidentally did not meet any of several of our performance requirements that we had written into this. Mr. Gatlin, Mr. Wickman had both helped us out with making sure that we wrote in the performance requirements that we needed. So I think with approval of our council members, we were going to reject that completely and go with the Plymavent bid for $70,000. Any questions about it?
I think you need to point the idea of the $54,000 and the $70,000. This is a grant, and the grant was for, I forget.
$76,500.
And you guys were able to add some other things to Firehouse 3.
Correct.
That you could that it would be adapted to what we wanted to do at
Right.
Firehouse 1.
Both systems would be adaptable into the same system, so all of our trucks would be, no matter what station they're at, they would hook up the same. So that was a good point. I forgot to bring that up.
And I was able to stop out and take a look at the one that's at Station 3 now, and I was clearly able to see the ease of use of the Plymavent system.
The other system that we want.
Right.
So
I had tried it last year and I couldn't do it. I didn't squat down far enough. It was not very easy to use. Get it done?
I was able to put it on.
Captain, would you mind explaining some of the specifications that were not met, or some of the requirements that you had?
yeah, we did. We had in our specs that we sent out, we had some performance requirements. Just to summarize for you, the nozzle connection that we required was to not have any sort of alignment tabs, that it could hook up as easily as possible in any direction, in any angle, and hook up with no exceptions. The MagnaGrip bid is unable to do that. For Medic 64 at Station 1, we needed that to be a drive-through bay. So for the system to have a hose retriever that would take the hose after the ambulance leaves and bring it to the back of the firehouse where they'll be pulling into. MagnaGrip was unable to spec that as well. We also spec'd a safety disconnect handle on the hose, just in case something were to happen. If it did not release, it will break at the safety disconnect. The MagnaGrip system does not have that. And the other thing is we required a certain temperature rating on the hoses, and for the upper hoses to be at least 500 degrees and then intermittent up to 600 degrees. The MagnaGrip system did not give us any sort of temperature rating for their upper hose. So, and that is one of the problems we just recently had. We burnt a hole through the lower hose because their hoses aren't rated as high as a temperature is what we need.
Okay, thank you. And then the grant you said is for a little over $76,000.
$76,500. It's a 95% paid out from the federal government. It's the AFG, and then 5% is our requirement.
Okay.
In the end, everything I think would be about $3,800 on our cost. And that is a line item in our budget for this year.
Okay.
So only one of the responses actually met the requirements of
Correct.
bids.
And I see that Sherry's not here tonight, but she would probably be able to tell us how many companies we actually sent the bid to. I know it was at least 4 or 5 companies that we sent them out to.
So what happens to the, and maybe I'm not thinking of this correctly, but what happens to the difference if the grant was for 76, whether you choose the 70,000 or the 54,000, what happens to that difference?
Well, the grants do not want you to give any money back. They want you to spend all of the federal money that they allot to you. So one of the options that we have with the Plime Event system is to upgrade our system at Station 3. So we would actually go just a little over, I think it's just over 77,000 for the entire project. So that gets us just that little bit over. And again, we do have the money in our budget this year for that. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
I believe on the June 2nd, the June 2nd meeting is when we have it on the agenda to vote. So.
All right. Thank you very much, Captain.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is under Public Works. Mr. Cahill, Mr. Skidmore.
Yes, so on bids, Mr. Bogart's here, so.
I know we want to talk about salt on May the 19th for next winter, so we'll keep it pretty brief. Back on May the 7th, participated in a reverse auction that was online that was co-sponsored by KLC and KECO. We were one of 21 different entities across the state that participated in this. It ended up going on for about 4 hours. So we're trying to set up a primary salt supplier. Our allotment started out around $110 a ton, and we got it down to, by the time everything was all said and done, we got it down to a rate of $78.50 a ton through Central Salt, which will ship out of Louisville. They're headquartered out of Illinois, so we'd basically like to make that recommendation to line them up as the primary supplier for next year at $78.50 a ton. And as I talked with CAO Fields today, we're going to go back and look at our supplier that we've had this past year that is through the Kenton County purchasing group that we're a part of, and try to lock them in as a secondary supplier at a rate not to exceed $81.43 a ton. So we're going to have some savings on that initial supply. So we're pretty tickled, and as Greg and I have talked about, that's a lot of gouging going on by these salt companies. So it was a good feeling to see that price go down to that rate. So
that's great.
Yeah. So if we're good to go, we'd like to proceed and set them up, get that awarded, because we've got 30 days to lock that rate in for next year. So.
Do you know if there's any other cities in the county that participated in that same type of auction?
Ellesmere, I think, was in it. Fort Mitchell, I believe, was in it as well. And then Boone County, Florence, and a couple of other entities right off the top of my head. I think Fort Thomas was another. So great. I've not talked with any of them to see which way they're going, but we had some pretty good rates. Boone County and Florence, the combination between those two. So this will tell you how close we are to their rate. They got around 72 a ton, and they're around 10,000 tons, I think, combined. So we did pretty well, folks. So it was a lot of fun. Again, getting that down to a low rate, getting it locked in. So
great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it.
Any questions for Mr. Bogard? All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is codes, building, and zoning. Mr. Dunhoff, Mr. Burke.
We're going to bring Mr. Hahn up to talk about these.
All right, thank you. We've got quite a few zoning issues to talk about tonight, but the first one is a request here by Wayne Smith. He's also here with Jeff Blankenship, who's representing Mr. Smith, and Matt Franks, who's the realtor involved with the project. Some of you all may remember some time ago that Mr. Smith made this request and to change not a map amendment, but a text amendment. They had towing as a permitted use within this BP1 zone. And there were some issues. The biggest issue that I remember from it at the time that I wasn't involved with it was the outside storage of damaged and salvaged vehicles. Mr. Smith has come up with what he feels is a remedy to that, and he would like to explain that to you and have you all revisit this issue of making towing a conditional use in this zone. And a conditional use means that it has another layer of review, which would be conducted by the Board of Adjustments if you all would so choose to go this route. So Mr. Smith and Mr. Blankenship would like to put on a presentation, so if that's all right with you all.
Please. If you wouldn't mind, just state your name.
My name is Wayne Smith. I'm the owner of Smith's Towing and A&W Complete Auto Repair. We're currently in Florence, Kentucky. Just wanted to, I've been in business for over 25 years. Thank you. I started out in a little two-bay gas station in Burlington. Consisted of a single truck is what I started with back here some 25 years ago. Today, we have a 13-bay repair facility that we operate out of. We have a fleet of towing, transport, and service vehicles. We have 6 light service pickup trucks and vans, 11 rollbacks, 4 wreckers, and 2 tractors with drop trailers, and 26 employees and the families that work for us. We have a lot of folks that are involved in my business. Kind of when we all started, it's my dad on the right there, just family values were a very important part of our business. I think I've tried to include that all the way through. Part of the reasons, I'll get that here in a second. That was when I had black hair. That was about 25 years ago there. A long time ago. I found some interesting pictures going through. This is a facility that's currently in Florence that we operate a repair as well as a maintenance on our fleet as we have it as now. That's myself, my wife Amy, Joe Carson, he's the general manager of the towing department. Jeremy Freeman's the transportation supervisor. Terry Wilson's one of the lead techs in the shop. And then Brad Gear's with us tonight. He's the general manager of the repair shop. Just kind of some shots. I mean, we are a repair facility, and that's part of what we're going to try to do here on the facility that we're going to talk about tonight and where we want to go. That's a picture of some of our fleet vehicles and drivers. We do quite a bit of work for AAA throughout the region. Just another, we have lots of rollbacks. We, as of recent, kind of one of the reasons this project is becoming really important is that we're starting to transport and do heavy hauling, transportation of construction equipment as well as all kinds of other equipment that has tracks and tires on it. And we just need more room to put that equipment. We do heavy duty towing. It's a family passion. That's my wife. That was our first upright of a tractor trailer. So I found those pictures today, and I thought they was pretty interesting just to show how we are involved in the day-to-day operations of our company. So someone might ask, why am I revisiting this site? One is I own the property on Dolwick. Seems like a shoe-in. Second, geographically, for the number of customers that I service, it puts us in a central location to service all the folks that we do.
Remind them where the property is.
The property is on Dolwick Road, right at the county line on Dolwick Drive, across from Interstate Drive is where the piece of property, there's 8 acres located in Kenton County is the property that we're talking about. I looked before I came, we've had a 70% increase since the last time that I talked to you. So the towing, that's just the towing business. This year alone, the repair is up about 35% due to Brad's good work. The reason that I bring this to your attention is that this dream that I had of owning my own business has become beyond me. And when I say we're a family, is that I'm very blessed that I have some very wonderful people who work for me that make me very proud every day. And the reason we need to grow is to allow them to explore their dreams. We operate on a profit-based, so everyone in the company gets to share in where we're at. Everyone that works for me is on performance-based pay. If you do well, you make you do well working for me. And I'm very proud I've got folks that work for me that have, it seems kind of funny that you would have towing companies that can afford their families, that their wives don't have to work and can go to school so that they can improve themselves. But some of those things that I'm very proud of. So with our growth has just allowed us, we need to move somewhere. And I need to do, this year I've finally come to the realization that we've got to do it. And the Dolwick site fits a lot of the requirements the same as it did back then. There was some concerns that we had, and at that time when I first came here, and to be honest with you, I was blindsided by some of the concerns, just didn't see them coming at all. So this time we approach it a little differently. One of the things that I want to do to the site, and I'll do my best to describe it, I'm not an engineer, but I've had some people look at the site, and what we want to do is take the site and drop the site below road level. At the highest point, it would be almost 13 feet below road level. What that does is make my entire operation invisible to anybody that drives by for the most part. There would be a brick retaining wall. We're going to use a concrete retaining wall at the end. I have some examples or pictures of this stuff. It would be a split face block construction, and there will be a lot of green space for screening the way this works. This is my drawing that I've drawn. This part that's X'd out is all green space. You have a sanitation line that goes through the middle of the property that makes it just non-developable. So what I want to do is build a building that is on the left part of the property. That property you're looking at the kind of that curve would be about 13 feet below road level, based on some pre-engineering estimates that I have. That building, you wouldn't even hardly see it except for the rooftop. The building on the left is for storing the vehicles inside. I personally like this model. It allows me for a lot of security and a lot of aggravations that I don't have to deal with to store the wrecked or damaged vehicles while we're waiting on the insurance company to dispose of them or do what we need to do with them. Also on that site, what I want to do is create a lean-to effect with the building. I want to be able to pull my trucks under roof, but not necessarily under a building. So the two sides of that building will be kind of a lean-to effect where you could actually pull your truck in out of the weather overnight and plug it into an electrical outlet in the wintertime to keep them warmed up and out of the sunshine and out of the rain. So, oh, I'm sorry. The vehicles we're talking about pulling in there would be the fleet of trucks that we have. I didn't kind of skipped over that at the beginning there, sorry, but there are about 26 vehicles that are in our fleet currently, and based on my projections, that's going to grow by probably at least 30 to 40% over the next few years. So we would actually be pulling our trucks into the building because I want them out of the weather. I hate them being out in the weather all the time. It drives me crazy. In the building itself, we would just store the vehicles inside, the wrecked or damaged vehicles. So on the outside, what you see around that is parking. You know, like I said, there are some tractors and trailers involved in this, no different than what's across the street. You're seeing the one there with drop trailers and things, and we have a couple box trailers that we utilize as well within our program. The building on the right, yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, you might be asked. I was wondering what that road was in between there. That's Dolwick there, and what's the road?
Oh, that's Interstate Drive across the street. Okay, thank you. The building on the right would be our maintenance, repair facility, and offices. There would be, no one would ever be in the building on the left, except for when we were putting cars in or removing them out. The building on the right would be all of our offices, all of our maintenance and repair places to store. We do quite a bit of a battery program, and parts and supplies would be in the building on the right.
Other than fleet vehicles, would there be any stored vehicles outside?
No, there would be no stored vehicles outside other than just fleet vehicles. The repair shop, my intentions is it would be similar to the repair shop in Florence. So I have intentions on working on customers' vehicles here. This place is going to be big enough that we can actually work on our trucks inside. Some of our trucks we can't even get into the building in Florence. So this will be designed where we could work on a tractor trailer and get it inside to physically work on that. This is kind of an example. It's Walmart on Houston Road, kind of the example of the block wall that would be there. This is also on Houston Road. It's from where I'm at now on Merchant Drive. That's looking back towards, can't think of the name of the road, but there's a restaurant up there. That's the approximate height that I envision this wall being, is about that height. So once you look at this thing from Dolwick Drive, that's about what you're going to see of the building that is on the left. So I'm going to go back here. So the building on the left, which is the building that we would store all the vehicles and where all our fleet vehicles would be parked, you're going to see a rooftop and trees. That's all you would ever see. And then you've got the screening because of the elevation of it. That screening is all going to be screened anyway. So I don't think you would ever even see the building that's set below. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. When I look at this map, which side is Erlanger and which side is Boone County?
Everything to the right of the diagonal line is Kenton County and Erlanger.
So your office buildings and
Kenton County.
That would be in Erlanger, right?
Everything's in Kenton County. Nothing is in Boone County. Boone County will not be involved in this project at all.
Okay, so Erlanger's to the right of that
Yes.
diagram?
Erlanger's, everything that's in the diagram is all Erlanger.
What you see in the upper right-hand corner is the mobile home park.
This is the Boone Kenton County line, so everything that's in my project is all Erlanger.
Okay. And then you said that the mobile park is,
You can see the mobile homes up in the corner.
oh, right at the
up there.
top, on the kind of left-hand side? Yeah, okay.
What else is around that? I have a hard time looking at a map, I guess, because I'm a woman.
Oh, that's okay. If you don't mind, I'll approach.
I think that's just a drawing.
Property line on this side, over here is the trailer park. We border all the way to Dolwick Drive against the trailer park. Okay. The property line here that goes down the center on this side is all industrial ground. It's in Boone County, so it's all industrial warehousing. On the bottom side of the property is SD1 Sanitation District. On the Boone County side on the left, there's a gentleman that owns a small piece of property that goes up there with a power substation. Talked to him a couple of times. But that's on the Boone County side.
Okay.
And there's a topography between the trailer park and this. There's a valley that runs between us. Yes, sir?
Do you have a backup plan in case when your garage gets full, what are you gonna do with the cars?
I have a facility that I currently use in Hebron. That is where we currently use it. That is probably where I would go to them because I sell a vast majority of my cars that aren't picked up that go to salvage. I sell a majority of those to Besslers, and we usually keep them there. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So that's a block wall. Oops, I want to back up. I'll show one last thing. I forgot to. The dark line that's on the back side of the property, what I envision here is basically a short retainer wall kind of made it so that it doesn't shift out from underneath me. So I ended up putting almost a retainer wall around the entire project, probably something around 4 or 5 feet tall, just to kind of make certain we don't slip off. There's some pretty good topography over there, let me tell you. So let's see where we're up to next here. But again, by the time that the green space gets in there, and this was just an awesome example of what you guys would see from Dolwick Drive. Now, this is this was an original photo drawing from the first time that I came here, and the reason I want to show it is that the curb cut was approved by the Department of Highways to put it on that end of the property. So I just want to show that we have some pre-existing. I think that if they approved it once, they would likely approve that curb cut again. And it shows not the same buildings that I would build as far as size and dimension and positioning, because we're going to cut this down and sink it down below road level, but it does kind of show kind of the topography of how it might look. The reason that I gave this is one of the concerns that I remember from last time was the construction and what the facility would look like. The building that's subgrade that you would never see would probably be a metal structure. The building that will be visible, which would be the garage or the maintenance repair facility, I'm planning on doing like a split face block, and this is the corner of 18 and Houston Road, about as high traffic area as you could get. It's a very nice looking metal structure with a split face block. I actually did this at my Burlington facility that I have in Burlington as well. Benefits to Erlanger. I've been established for 25 years in business, not going anywhere. I've been very successful. We're growing business. We need some place to grow. This affords us to do this. We run a business with solid family values. I think that's important in today's world. I take it very, very seriously that the decisions that I make affect so many people's lives. It's very important to me, the things that I do, and I understand now that I never thought it would get past what I want. This is not as much about what I want, but what they want. We're a solid business partner. We've been there a long time, and I have countless references. The fun stuff for you guys is what the payroll and tax benefit to the city and county and what the property tax benefit would be. I was actually surprised when I started working these numbers. So the payroll that's up there, the almost 800,000 in payroll, what that it represents is the folks that would be moved to Erlanger once this project's completed. That's an exact number from 2014. There's no fluff in that. Represent almost a $12,000 payroll tax revenue. If things go as I projected, I told you we grew 70% in the last 5 years. That payroll represents a 40% increase. So it's a fairly substantial amount of revenue coming into the city. Payroll taxes for Kenton County. I figured all the payroll taxes here at the higher rate. There are a few, about half the staff is up there, but it seems like we have a very transient staff. About half the staff never moves, and about half the staff rotates on a regular basis in the towing business. And we keep moving more to the right, but not as fast as I want to. So that's your estimated payroll taxes for Kenton County, 55 or 5,600 and 7,900 with the 40% increase. Evaluation of the property, once I'm done with, I estimated almost $1 million. I don't want to say too high. I think that that's probably pretty low according to Matt, but I went low. So even at the low number, you're looking at about $8,500 for the county and about $3,300 for the Erlanger city. So you're looking at Erlanger tax benefits about $15,000 annually. About $14,000 to Kenton County, so $29,000 for tax benefit to the county and city of Erlanger, and a 5-year projection of somewhere around $36. So all I can do is thank you. I hope you give it an honest consideration. I would love to work with you folks. My grandparents grew up here. My aunt worked for the city for many, many, many years. Amy and I would like the opportunity to work with you on Dolwick and make something that the city would be very proud of. I know the employees are very excited about making something here come together. It's important for their future as well as our growth going forward. And I can't thank you all enough for your time to let me present again for you. Yes, sir.
First of all, I want to thank you for really thinking about this project this time, because last time you did get excited by some things. I love the idea that you can put everything indoors, because that was our biggest concern, everything outside, vandalism, everything, breaking in out there, and you didn't want to deal with that either. So I think you've overcome all those obstacles. Wasn't Corprex an obstacle for you at one time?
I think Corprex, some of their concerns, as I remember them, was construction of the building. I've actually looked in, I think some of their stuff was they wanted kind of that engineered stuff. I've since learned that the size of buildings that I build really don't qualify for that. So I tried to think outside the box with the stuff that went in across the road that has kind of a different type of split face block look. That's what I remember with them. And I know that we have intentions on meeting with them in the next few days. We've been given some contacts. We want to address them.
think the concern was the outside storage.
I did, yeah.
And the wrecked cars, and the people who lived out there, and then the businesses, and then one big concern was the vandalism was gonna occur out there if you weren't gonna have people out there 24 hours a day, which you probably don't have out there anyway. I like your plan.
Yeah. One thing that Jeff made mention of is that our operation is typically 8 in the morning till 8 at night. And even the stuff after that, it's usually folks broke down the road. We're not really, after that hour, we're never back at the shop. Usually the office staff and the dispatchers get there about 8 in the morning, and usually about 8 in the evening, we're down to 1 or 2 people that are out still running calls, and it's down to a dull roar at that point.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell me what the square footage is of the 2 buildings?
The building that I have in my mind for the storage to put the cars in is probably going to be about 9,500 indoor square foot. The building that we have for the repair is probably around 7,000 square foot.
And you did a calculation on how many cars or vehicles?
Yeah, I actually took an overhead photo view of the impound lot that I currently have, and that'll contain about 85 to 95 cars, depending on how you place them in there. And that's actually a high number for me. I usually don't have that many. But even if we do, I would probably offshoot them because I usually sell them to Bestlers, and I usually got to take them there anyway. So I probably would transport the ones, because there's a cycle to that, and you just got to kind of work through the cars.
Thank you. One more question. Is how much of the 8 acres would you actually be using? Would it be?
I think it's about 4 acres. I done like a site plan to clear it, and it's about 4.3 acres is what I've seen. I think when we're done, when we get usable, I'm hoping that I've got somewhere around 3. I hope it's closer to 4, but I haven't had anyone do the engineering because I wanted to get your guys' feedback first before I spend a lot of money. And to be honest about that, I think it needs to be cleared first to get accurate engineering, because I know from the topo maps, the topo maps are inaccurate on that site. And somebody needs to get out there and just do some real readings to see how much dirt there is. But we've done some preliminary walking around the site, and doing what we're doing, we're going to gain a whole lot of ground by going down about 12 or 13 feet.
All right, thank you.
I guess my question, is maybe for Mr. Hahn. If we add vehicle towing and storage as an allowable or conditional use, does that, is preventing the outside storage, or could they just start outside storage at some other point?
Well, right, because there's another section in the ordinance that says outside storage isn't permitted in there, but you all can also, as part of your stipulation, if you so choose to make them put in there that it's a conditional use, provided salvage vehicles are stored inside. You all have the control, because we would have to be the applicant on this project, not them, if we go the text amendment.
I wouldn't have no issue whatsoever as long as we put that in there as indoor storage.
And he agrees to it too,
Yeah,
so I mean.
absolutely. Like it.
So I guess that the way it works is, I would.
Renee has,
I just have one more question. Since it's a conditional use, this is for David, does that only apply to that piece of property, not the whole zone?
That's correct.
BB1? Okay.
It would just be this, these things run with the property.
Okay.
Yes.
We will make that recommendation at the next meeting.
Renee?
Question. In that laptop or whatever that thing is y'all sent around, it looked like there was a lot of trees in that area. There was a little brown spot like where it looked like you were going to build your stuff, or you were going to build your garage. So if you were only hoping to get 3 acres out of that 8-acre parcel, then does the rest of it stay green space?
Yes, absolutely.
So if you're down in the dip with your building and you've pretty much got it out of sight, whatever that didn't cover, the tree growth and the green space would? Yeah,
the green space, if I can, let me go back a few. The guy that came up with this was a fellow that worked for me and come up with an awesome idea. Nobody ever thought it or proposed it. But all the Xed area, I can't build there anyway because you got setbacks, and also the sanitary line, all that's green space. as well as below the big dark line is also going to be green space. It's not going to disturb, all those are going to be trees on that side of the property.
So except for your little square and your little rectangle, the rest of it's green space?
No.
It'll be paved.
Parking.
This section here would all be parking with the exception of your green space that runs here and here.
In the back.
Back along the outside edges of the property, that's going to be undisturbed, just be trees, just as it is now. The topography it's just so steep, you can't do anything.
Because on that outside line's where he's gonna build that 4 or 5 foot wall anyway, right?
Just a small retaining wall, kind of just make certain we don't slip out.
Over the hill you go.
Yeah, I appreciate all the consideration that you've given to, making things this discreet, and I know a lot of times businesses don't want to hide what they do, but this is a good example of something where you don't necessarily gain anything by showing the public what you're doing back there, and
No, it works.
I appreciate all the consideration you've given to that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
So I guess the next step would be then to go to the Board of Adjustments.
I've got one more question for Dave
Okay.
again. I just wanted to clarify. This is for Dave.
Oh, yes,
I just had another question for you. So that we would be making this change to BP1.
that's correct.
So does that mean any zone that was BP1 could
Any
this would be
zone,
conditional use?
any property that it was in the BP1 zone could do this, provided they go to the Board of Adjustments and get the Board of Adjustments approval. That's correct. So it's just not limited to this one particular property.
Do we know? Do we have a map handy of the other one zones?
We could pull one up. I don't have one in here, but mostly the BP1 zone is all of this out there. If you're going out Dolwick, all of the Corporex property, the vacant property, and the property that's in Erlanger that is developed is BP1 zone. It's a large area.
But BP1 is pretty much isolated to Dolwick, right? I mean, that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it doesn't occur anyplace else in the city.
And again, the thing that we're looking at is it's all indoor storage, it's not gonna be any outdoor storage. We're worried about, like, we had Gillespie's on Dixie Highway, and then it's gone now, and this place, when they first came here, we're gonna be outside, now it's not gonna be outside. That's what I really like about it. And I think you'll make everybody out there happier too.
And I, for one, would be interested to hear what Corporex has to say after you talk with them, because I think one of the things that happened the last time, they got wind and they threw a fit.
Their concern last time was the same issue,
Right.
outdoor storage.
Right.
They didn't like the appearance of it.
Right.
So, that's one of the reasons, amongst others, that we tried to do.
So you guys will get with Dave after
Yep.
all that, take care of that? Thank you.
And I'll let you all know what they have to say.
Thanks, just to move on.
All right, yeah, thank you, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Take care, David. Thank you.
All right, then the next item we have on the agenda is the Renaissance Guidelines and Protection Overlay.
I've got PowerPoints and everything here today, so we can go past that one. Click, okay.
Slideshow, they call that.
That'd be pretty impressive if that was a touch screen up there.
Yeah. No. If you remember, some time ago, I brought up about the issues we were having with the Renaissance Protection Zone and the area and so on. I believe it was Mr. Meyer brought up, how would this affect if this weren't in effect what we did? So what I did here is I've got about 4 or 5 slides that show the difference. And You know, that, on the left-hand side is the zoning regulation, and on the right-hand side is what the Renaissance guidelines are. So for instance, if this Renaissance protection area was not there, somebody wanted to build a building up there, they would have to be 50 foot from their front property line. They could build right to the side property line, but if they stay off anything, 15 feet. Corner lots, they have to be off 50 foot, the same as the front, and the rear yard is 15 foot from the rear property line. So now this Renaissance guidelines are in effect there. So, and another thing that confuses me with it, if it talks about the guidelines and it just says they're recommended. So what does that tell us as zoning people? I mean, you know, zoning folks are black and white, you know, it's this way or this way, and it's recommended. So what if we tell the guy, and the Renaissance area is divided into 3 areas, north, south, and the shops. The north runs from the underpass to McAlpin, and then McAlpin to Cave Run, then Cave Run to the Erlanger County and the county line is the south. So it says in the north, for instance, we all know that because we've talked about the development that we've got on that's coming on Dixie Highway from Commonwealth to Graves, they would have to build right on the sidewalk. Well, the guideline says abut an 8-foot sidewalk next to the street is the way that we don't have an 8-foot sidewalk anywhere along Dixie Highway. So that's what it says. In the shop area, it can either abut the sidewalk or be 43 foot back. So you can see all the differences that we're having here. Oh, I got the thing. The height, 40 foot, Renaissance guideline, 2.5 stories or 35 foot, whichever is less. Parking. Talks about where they can be located. Zoning ordinance allows it anywhere, but it has to be 5 foot from property lines, and it has to be screened. The guidelines, again, strongly encouraged. We can, I guess, strongly encourage all we want, but what if someone says, no, I don't want to do that, you know. So those are the kinds of problems we're having. Signage. Wall signs, you're allowed 2 square foot of sign per 1 lineal foot of building wall that it's on. Freestanding signs, 25 square foot max, 20 foot height, 5 foot from the property line. Wall signs in the Renaissance guidelines are 6 square foot. So if you get a building that's built 43 foot back from the street and you got a 6 square foot sign, you can't read it. So therefore they're coming to the Board of Adjustments, getting variances, and and the board's granting everything, and then they're looking at us like, what are you doing here again? You know, then the architectural requirements is what you talked about, Mr. Meyer, the last time. None's provided in the zoning ordinance because whatever complies with the building code, they can build. So you can see the guidelines, it's the color palette, and it says will be, and those are the colors, blacks, grays, charcoals, whites. And then the building materials for the walls, it's recommended it to be horizontal wood siding or brick, masonry, sheet metal with raised seams or roof. Windows, another little thing, they have to have punched windows. I had to Google what a punched window was. It's set in at least 12 inches is what the thing said. In the south, you can have the regular curtain wall. So, and then it has to, and it specifically says it has to have circle archways, and it specifically mentioned St. Henry's Church, because I guess they have the arch coming in there. So those are the issues that we're having with it, and for those reasons, we think that they ought to be, we shouldn't have them in effect anymore. I've talked to Mr. Gatlin, his feeling, and I guess I should let him talk for himself, but I know that we've talked to our friends at Ellesmere, who comments were, because they have the same guidelines, and they said, we don't even enforce them anymore at all, so they're not doing anything with them. So, but here, if we have them, my opinion is we're going to enforce them until you all say that they shouldn't be here anymore. Mr. Gatlin could talk to what it would take to get them not there anymore, these guidelines.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, I guess the question, I wasn't sure the answer. Has the interlocal agreement been dissolved yet? Do we know?
I don't believe it has. We looked, it has not been dissolved. The dollars that we had in there have been given away.
Because that would be step one, is that interlocal agreement would need to be dissolved. And if that's an amicable dissolution, it's pretty easy. If it's not an amicable dissolution, that agreement called for notice and things like that. But it sounds like it would be an amicable dissolution. So then the next step would merely be just council providing a text amendment to remove the Renaissance Protection Overlay Zone, sending it to Kenton County and dealing with it that way. And there's actually 2 ordinances in place that deal with this Renaissance Overlay Protection Zone.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any real advantage to even having this Renaissance?
Well, in my opinion, no, because basically, even though the interlocal agreement hasn't been dissolved, for all intents and purposes, everything's done. We don't, I think the only thing left from what was the Renaissance area is the farmer's market, is the only thing that both cities are still doing together. So no, in my opinion, it doesn't. I know Ms. Sudkamp was very instrumental in getting these things passed. I talked to her briefly about it, and I think she feels the same way, that she doesn't see the need for it. But I don't want to put words in her mouth. But
and I'm not sure exactly how this all came about. When it came about, I was here, not in exactly this position. However, I do know that most of these requirements, the interlocal agreement, and some of these things came because of grant funding. And we were able to get some grant funds and be able to spend it along Dixie Highway and those things. I can say, and Missy can but we did dissolve the joint account a year ago, or about a year ago, last November. So we have no more Renaissance account. And the farmer's market, yes, it is a remnant of that, but we pay a certain amount of the cost of that. Ellesmere pays a certain amount of the cost for that, and it's just going to continue. It's now a budgeted item that has nothing to do with Renaissance any longer. So everything that we've done on this side, we've dissolved it, basically, and except for this.
Dissolved, and then let's go ahead. Yep. I mean, if it's useless, we're not using it anymore since we gave up. We don't have the grant money anymore, the Renaissance money. Why have it? But like you say,
I agree.
They're coming when we say they can only have a certain size sign. They're coming and getting it approved anyway.
Just to let everybody know, those funds are no longer available with the state of Kentucky.
right, that program's not.
Something did come up, we could always,
Absolutely.
right,
Yeah.
redo it and
It would be different than
Right.
what the Renaissance
Sure.
is. Absolutely.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
That will be our recommendation.
Okay.
I'll reach out to Ellesmere again to make sure we'll get something together. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay, this is just the only slide for this. This is if you remember, there was a request to possibly have some commercial zoning at the intersection at Turkey Foot and Stevenson Road. That's this piece of property right here.
One right in front of the daycare, right?
Right in front, that's the daycare. Yeah. So the purpose for here tonight is just for us to get direction, and maybe I misunderstood you all the last time. I understood you all the last time. You all were basically in favor of some sort of commercial, provided that the access could be worked out and it wasn't something that was like not a nightclub or something. If there was they brought up like a bank branch or something like that on that property, if something like that could occur on that property. So that's number one thing. I wanted to make sure that was still the case. Secondly, to have a standalone zone, you have to have at least 5 acres. That piece of property accompanied with the daycare is not 5 acres. So there would have to be other property that would have to be part of this zone to have a standalone zone to whatever it is. So I was talking with them and felt that the best way, again, would be to have some kind of hybrid zoning in that area that permits residential, single-family residential, if that's what they wanted, and then also some sort of light commercial, whatever you all felt it could be. If that's the way you all still feel, that's the way I'll work at putting something on paper for you all to look at.
How big is that property?
What's that?
How big is that property?
This, the front piece, oh, it's.
Close?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, all of this property.
Thinking of the property next to it where that house is.
All of this, and all of that, even the right of ways, is maybe 3.
Yeah, okay.
So they would have to, and what I've told them, we're gonna leave that to you. If you wanna go to your neighbor, we're not gonna get involved in the zoning. If you can get somebody to say, yeah, we'd like to, then maybe the city would consider putting them in that zone. So I was just looking for direction here. How do we head? How do you want me to try to craft some sort of hybrid zoning? Or if you all don't even want to do it at all, that's up to you all.
But didn't we make a promise to those people that we were gonna let them do something later on down the road once?
Years ago, you know I was here when that property, when they redid Stevenson Road, when they realigned it, they came at the time and asked, would the city consider commercial? And the city at the time told them, yeah, you know, we can see that the complexion of that area is changing somewhat when you got a 5-lane road and a bigger intersection there, and possibly we would consider commercial, is what council told them at the time. So I was just looking for some direction how to head with this. Are you all still in favor of some sort of light commercial there?
As long as you're gonna bring it back to us to look at prior to them.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'll get something, I'll write something that.
Anybody interested right
As long
now?
as they would come back to us and we would say yay or nay.
You have
Well,
somebody looking at it? I mean, is
Yeah.
somebody's called about
Well,
it? Right.
the owner of the property, who's the same fellow who owns the daycare center, has got a realtor involved with it, and so I know that he's out pushing the property.
What does he want?
He's the one who brought up a bank branch, that sort of thing.
Hey,
But
Dave, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was gonna, so we'd have to have 5 acres here at least.
You have to have a total of 5 acres to change the zone. And I don't think you want to do it, this is R1F zoning is what this is, and I don't think you want to change anything with that, because R1F is probably our biggest zoning district, and I don't think you want to touch that. I think you want to have some sort of
So would a hybrid?
that kind of permits. We've got a zone up here on Erlanger Road, in the first block of Erlanger Road, that permits residential, that permits offices, doctor's offices and the like. So it could be something that could be modeled after that, if that's what you all would like to see. I mean, that's.
Hey, Dave, can the area for a zone cross a road? I mean, can the area of the road be
it can
included?
include the right-of-way. Yes.
But I mean, if we went to the area north,
Typically when they change a zone, they'll go to the center line of the street.
what if we went to the other side of the street up to the following?
What he's getting at, David, is can you take in the parking lot over there? There's a parking right area.
Oh, that's sure.
So that might make you 5 acres.
I think so.
It'd probably be close.
I think we could do it without getting into,
Draw it and see what we would get just.
Because he owns that whole property, right?
He owns all this, but that's not enough, but if you do add that may do it.
Across the street?
Yes.
But that's somebody's yard, isn't it?
No, that's part of the riding hole, that's where old Stevens Road.
Yeah, that's
That's
the
state
old
property.
Stevenson Road.
And then somebody's house is right behind it.
Right, across from that would be.
but we could get 5 acres. We could cross the street both ways and open up commercial to everybody around there.
It is,
For
but
a
it's
singular
hybrid.
business, though,
That
right?
hybrid sounds good.
And we're gonna end up with a singular business?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you went all the way to the property lines to the north and crossed over Turkey Foot and touch all the property lines on the other side and then all the way back, now you open up all those other residents can join into that zone someday in the future if they wanted to.
Yeah, no, that's the part that probably has me concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right, Mayor. If we had included that right-of-way on that side of Stevenson Road, and then just come to the center of the right-of-way, like typically, and just include where the daycare is, include this piece of property, you may come up with the 5 acres. We'll have to check and see. If that's the way you want me to head, that's what I'll do.
There are, in the zoning code, there's a lot of restrictions. When one zone touches another, there are more restrictions on what you can do and how you have to act there. So I mean, I don't think you're devaluing any of those properties by touching it with a different zone. That's what your concern is.
No, I mean, you have a singular business there right now that's hidden pretty much. I mean, you've got a big hill that's right there in the corner. And if you didn't really know it was there until you saw the sign as you're passing, you wouldn't even know that that was a business.
I always guessed it was part of the same property, honestly. You know, as the daycare.
I like the hybrid better, myself.
But include this other property to get the 5 acres.
Yeah. Yes, too.
David, my only concern is a safety issue at that intersection because that traffic there is horrendous.
And we talked about that, and that was expressed, if you remember, to them the last time. So I foresee them just kind of using the same access point, no new access points for it, but accessing the.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, right there.
Here to come out.
And over there.
So that there's no new curb cuts or points onto the roadway system.
That would be a good idea.
I think then you're touching. Figure out the 5 acres and go from there.
Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Figure out the 5 acres.
I mean, we still get to choose and do all that, so.
Yeah. I think so. Is there any other questions?
All right, or next?
Dixie Highway.
Okay, here's another one that has been before council in the past. This is, you see here, this 4408. This is a little piece of property here where the dog brewer was.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Sits right in front of Aldi's.
Yeah, Aldi's is back, yeah.
You remember that the owner of that property passed away and their heirs came and requested that we include it into the commercial zone, because on each side of it, you can see it's NC2, and then on the other side, it's NC. But it's in the R2 zone, which is residential attached. So they want the property at the time, wanted it to be in the commercial zone, and they still want it to be in the commercial zone now. The problem at the time with council when they requested that is they didn't want that old building, because it's not a very nice building. They didn't want somebody just to go in there and slap a coat of paint on it and put some sort of business in there. Now these folks are saying that they'd tear the building down and just have it a vacant piece of property to include it in one of those commercial zones. So that's what they are requesting.